Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men have asked me for the right words to say to be more attractive, desirable, and more of a leader. And I've found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines. Because at the root of a connected and affectionate relationship and being more effective and inspiring at work is your ability to influence others. But most often, influence is not gained or lost with words. It's from what I call the invisible factors. So I created a quick guide for you called 3 Ways Men Lose Influence at Work and with Women, so you can understand how these invisible factors work and what has women and colleagues both more inspired to say yes. I think you're also going to be surprised to find out the moment when your influence actually begins. So grab the guide for free at shanajamescoaching.com/3ways. That's shanajamescoaching.com/3 and the word ways, WAYS. Or you can text ALIVE to 44144. That's the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144. I hope you enjoy the guide and this episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm excited to be here with Terry Real. Terry, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Terry, you're one of the fathers, one of the masters of relationship and couples therapy. You've been doing this for decades and decades. And, many people probably know of you, but I want to give you a quick intro before we dive in and talk about your new work, Fierce Intimacy, and the work you've done with men. And really what I would call your no bullshit approach to how to actually make relationships work these days, because, they're falling apart out there. So we are all falling apart. The relationships are. So let me do a quick intro. Terry Real is an internationally recognized family therapist, speaker, and author. He also founded the Relational Life Institute and offers workshops for couples, individuals, and parents around the country, along with a professional training program for clinicians wanting to learn the relational life therapy methodology. A family therapist and teacher for more than 25 years, Terry is the best-selling author of I Don't Want to Talk About It, which I've started to read, which is amazing, Overcoming the Secret Legacy of Male Depression. You also wrote The New Rules of Marriage, What You Need to Know to Make Love Work, which I read that one as well. And you know how to lead couples on a step-by-step journey to greater intimacy and greater personal fulfillment. And I could go on and on with all of your, teaching history and therapy history, but I want to dive into our topic. Sure. And I really want to explore fierce intimacy and what you mean by that, and what I've been calling your no bullshit approach, and specifically, especially how it relates to men, because that's the main, listenership of this podcast. So,
all right, let me first gas on about fierce intimacy. That's great. A big question. And then if I forget, remind me to bring it back to men.
Okay.
Okay. So fierce intimacy means this. It means that look. One of my great mentors, Pia Melody, a great light in the recovery movement, used to say that intimacy, which is a spiritual experience, intimacy is the conjunction of truth and love.
I like that.
Think about that for a moment. When you feel most touched or close to somebody, aren't you feeling that they really see you very clearly and they just think you're the greatest thing since sliced bread?
Yes.
Even while they're seeing you so clearly, it's so healing.
Yeah, it is really.
It's really loving. So that's relationality, and the problem is that in our culture, people stop telling the truth to each other.
Yeah,
you stop taking each other on, and often for good reason. I'll double back to that, but you stop taking each other on. Stuff festers.
Yes.
And one of the things I wrote is that every issue that goes unaddressed becomes a resentment.
Mm-hmm.
It has consequences.
Yes.
And when you stop telling the truth to each other, the first casualty is passion.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Isn't that right?
Yep. Yep.
And
Right. You can, and especially I'm, when I work with men and I help explain to them, that usually a woman's body opens through her heart first, right? So if we're not feeling seen and loved and that intimacy is not happening, then usually there's no passion, there's no sex drive, there's no wanting, right?
right, that's exactly right. And
Yeah.
the paradox, of course, is that women need to feel an emotional connection before they can be let go and be sexual. And
Yeah.
men often filter their needs for emotional connection through the physical.
Through, yes.
Anyway, back to fierce intimacy. The point is that we stop really dealing with this particular issue or that particular area, or going a kind of, I won't be vulnerable to my husband because every time I am, he cuts me off, and I'll be vulnerable to my girlfriends. Every time you do stuff like that, you damage passion. You damage you damage the aliveness.
Every time you hold back your truth and you don't actually bring it to the relationship, you're saying.
Yeah, which of course is the traditional role of women.
Right. But I was actually going to say too, I work with a lot of men who identify as nice guys, and they have that reversal, right, of their women being more mean or bitchy or cold hearted. And so both ways.
Yeah, they're nice guys. A lot of nice guys, not all of them, but a lot of nice guys are walled off.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys who think of themselves as very nice can be, in fact, fairly passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not giving guys. Look,
there's no pass. There's no free pass here.
There's no pass. I actually have a topology of tough, sort of the types of difficult men. You want to hear it?
Yeah, please.
I talk about boys. Men, boys.
Yeah.
Charming, irresponsible, creative, undependable, selfish, immature.
Mm-hmm.
Fun. That women love bad boys.
Yeah.
Because bad boys are sexy and they're fun and they have open hearts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to their feelings. Anyway, boys need to be grown up. Bullies.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that is really concerning me about what's happening in the world, not just our culture or our country, but all over the world, is the rise of the bully, the rise of the strongman, and the glorification of that kind of patriarchal strength. Carol Gilligan has written a beautiful book called Darkness Now Visible, Carol Gilligan, about Trump and patriarchy.
Wow.
And let me tell you, I watched Brett Kavanaugh. I don't care about your politics particularly. I just want to talk about the way people comport themselves and what's going on.
Yeah.
What's going on in the world today right now is that masculinity is at war with itself.
Mm.
There are two versions of how to be a man. There's a traditional conservative patriarchal version.
Yeah.
With all of its idiosyncrasies and all of its entitlements and all of its destructiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a more modern, for most people younger, egalitarian, more ecological, more relational model. And they're at war.
Yeah. And one thing I loved in Fierce Intimacy is that you talked about at the end is that, you're not talking about wimpifying or making men into sissies, right? There's still this power. There's a power that can come through as men are opening their hearts. And what I got from that work too is that you've been through your own journey, right? Your own like you said, coming down from the grandiosity or from that narcissism. And
Yeah, no, that's true. I was an asshole for a while.
mm,
When I don't want to talk about it hit. Look, it was the first book ever written about male depression.
yeah,
And so there are an estimated 6 million depressed men in America at any given time. And the book
yeah.
did go well. And I was on TV and, I was therapist to stars and it got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be insensitive and I could be self-referential. And I just kind of was a jerk.
Mm.
In grandiosity for a couple of years. My wife kept trying to bring me down.
Yeah. I
Not very.
appreciate that you can say that, right? You can admit it and that you've done the work to get yourself from there to where you are now.
Well, the self-esteem is being no better and no worse than anybody else. There's two forms of self-esteem disorder. It's central to masculinity. One is shame, and all men experience some degree of shame. Can I tell you why? Because we live up to a lie. The essence of masculinity is invulnerability. The more invulnerable you are, the more manly. I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I'll produce that damn report. I'm going to close that sale.
I can
Like
do anything and everything. There's no holes, no, right? Yep, I got it all.
dominion. The essential mistake of patriarchy is dominion. God gave Adam lordly dominion over the earth. Bad idea. You
Yeah.
know? And the new form of masculinity is ecological. It's relation. You're not above the, you're in it. And that has consequences. So I say to men, your relationship is your biosphere.
Mm.
You live in it. So you can pollute over there with anger or control or pouting like a big baby, but you're going to breathe that pollution over here in the bedroom or
Right.
the next time you need some comfort or an attaboy and it's not there.
Yeah.
So I teach men to think relationally. This is not about altruism. This is about enlightened self-interest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And happy wife, happy life. You live with her, buddy. Why is it in your interest to please her? Because you wake up and go to bed with her. I don't. I'll tell you.
Right, right. And you talk about relational empowerment versus self-empowerment. Can you say a little bit about that on that thread?
Yeah, because what happens a lot, and this is really true for women, and men have this beef about women, and I think it's legit in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, it's not. In a lot of cases, men are paranoid about being overly controlled. The woman just says, "Would you like some orange juice?" But when it's real, what it comes down to is what were we talking about? I just lost my train of thought.
Well, the whole relational empowerment versus self-empowerment.
When people speak, they move from disempowerment into what I call individual or personal empowerment, particularly women. This is big in the 70s feminine. What was that? Gloria Steinem, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me, gals, you do need men, just like men need you. Come on, knock it off. That's grand.
I love what you said in Fierce Intimacy. Something that was like, Cinderella's dead, the prince is probably in rehab, and you're going to have to actually stand up for yourself in your relationship.
So let me go back to fierce intimacy for a moment, because I'll finish. Relational empowerment versus individual empowerment is I'm going to bring my strength into this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work like a team to make this happen. What do you need? Let's go. Come on.
Actually asking your partner, what do you need versus here are all the things I need. I mean, it sounds like both.
What do we need? It's the difference between saying, and I have to train guys to do this, the difference between saying, I need more sex around here. I'm not getting enough sex, and saying, honey, I believe that we both deserve a great sex life.
Yes.
It's like saying the same thing, but the skill level just jumped by. So
right. That's huge.
One of the things I want men to get is that we were not raised with a whole lot of relational skill.
Yeah.
In fact, most of us were raised with a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to be in charge of the universe or you're a loser. And men try and live up to this, and it's a lie. One of the things I say, Shauna, is I say, trying to escape your own vulnerability is like trying to run away from your rectum.
That's
That's
awesome.
the way of following you around wherever you go. It's a lie.
It is. It's a painful lie. I mean, a lot of the work I do with men, I think of it as a relational practice, right? It's like I get to practice being human with men and
Good.
relational so that then they can go back to that relationship and know what it actually feels like.
Good. And I love to work with men in their relationships, in
Mhm.
it's to me it's a much faster and deeper way of getting to teach them how to be relational,
Uh-huh.
and using the relationship they're in
Yep.
as a laboratory. And look, you get a guy. Look, if you think that guys have trouble articulating themselves, tuning into their interior, emotions in space, and that they minimize and tell, kind of, I'm fine, they do all that. Why would you rely on them to give you information? Bring in the wife, bring in the kids.
Mm,
They spill the beans in the first session.
yeah.
How are you, Bill? Fine. Uh, how are things? A little stressed at work. Tell me, it's not silly. Okay, you bring in the wife and the kid. How's dad? Well, he's been sucking down 3 martinis a night for the last month and a half. He's rare to live with. I think that he should probably get a med console, frankly. Because, and you just saved yourself about 1.5 years of therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right. And like you said, I mean, there's so much shame in our culture of not living up to to admitting those things for a man is not living up to that ideal that they've been taught, that you've been taught.
What's difficult about men is that that's part one, and part two, unfortunately, is grandiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Shame is feeling one down, inferior, less than, defective, unlovable. What I should just grandiosity is shame is inferior, grandiosity is superior. Looking down, being above.
Do you see grandiosity as just like a protection or cover up of that shame, or is it something?
Not necessarily. That's a therapeutic myth. The therapy, you know what? One of the things I say on the road is there are two groups that believe that underneath every bully, every man in grandiosity, there's a shame-ridden, insecure little boy. And if you get to that shame-ridden little boy and love that boy up, the grandiose behavior will stop. There are two people who believe that. One is therapists, and the other is codependents.
Interesting.
You have to deal with the grandiosity per se. It's like drinking. You have to deal with the drinking per se, then you deal with why the person's drinking.
Interesting.
Them to 12-step. And therapists don't get it right when they don't deal with the grand. We are taught under patriarchy, we therapists, to replicate traditional wife role with men. We're taught to men with kid gloves. And as you say, I'm a no bullshit guy. And every RLT therapist is a no bullshit guy. Joining through the truth.
Yeah.
Telling the truth. And that's our version of fierce intimacy. But going back to men for a moment, men don't have voice in relationship any more than women. For 40 years, we've been hearing about how women don't have voice. Neither do men.
Yeah.
And here's why. They're for different reasons. Women stop telling the truth because having their own wants and needs, it feels, is coded as selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And because when they do try and speak to the men, they're shut down or blown off. Or the guy escalates, but they're not heard. So they give up. But those are the two reasons. Men don't express their wants and needs because they don't even acknowledge them to themselves.
Yeah, they don't even know they have them in the first place.
That's correct. Because See, a good woman has no wants and needs of her own because a good woman puts the wants and needs of others above hers.
In this traditional role.
Of course.
Yes.
And a good man or a strong man, a manly man, has no needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Superman.
I mean, what a bind.
Yeah. Right. So men don't, I mean, what men, to be, we've been very serious. So Dave Barry has a little riff that I enjoy a lot. He's got a guy and a gal driving down a country road, and the woman says to her pal, "Hey, we've been dating for 6 months now. This is our 6 month anniversary of our first date. Isn't that cool?" And she's met with silence. And then she starts to think, and then you hear her internal
thought bubble. Mm-hmm.
thought, well, why isn't he talking? What is he offended? I'm sorry, I brought up that we've been together. What does he think, that I'm fishing for a commitment? Who the hell does he think hey, on the other hand, it has been 6 months. I mean, and the guy, his thought bubble is 6 months. Man, I need an oil change.
Oh God.
So men have been, the relationality has been schooled out of, beaten out of, cultured out of, socialized out of boys and men. Boys are really sweet. Boys are really connected. Boys are
I have an almost 7-year-old boy, and I mean, he's got tons of energy and he's a whirlwind, but he's also has one of the sweetest little hearts I've ever seen. And there are times where I walk around in the world thinking, oh my God, all of these men used to be like these sweet little boys. I mean, they're all unique, of course, but
I'll tell you a story about my son. My son, who is an amazing young man at this point, I'm happy to say. When he was young, he struggled with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
He was in a private school, small, and between the roughness and his lack of social grace from the missing social cues because he's too busy being fast and impulsive,
Mm-hmm.
between that and a real sensitive, soft kind of core. Those two things together set him up to be a scapegoat.
Mm.
He was out of the realm of a boy, of a masculine boy.
Huh.
And he was fair game because he was awkward. And so they knew that they could hit him. And okay, so I'm driving with my son. He's now, I don't know, maybe it's young, like 10, 11. Mm-hmm. And we're chatting away, and we come up to the school. And as we get onto the block the school's on, he goes frozen. He goes monosyllabic. He goes the way he goes most of the time these days. And I get mad, and I say, Justin, you were fine.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
What we do to boys.
Yeah.
Okay. So he says, you see that group of kids over there? See them all talking to each other?
Yeah.
And laughing? He said, I'm going to walk by and I'm going to go, hi, guys. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. But I'm going to go, hi, guys. And they're going to go dead silent. And they're going to look at me and they're going to stare.
Yeah.
And he said, and then I'm going to go, bye, guys. And I'm going to walk away and they're going to start talking to each other again.
Uh-huh.
He said, that's my life. So, I'm sorry.
No, I don't want you to apologize.
He said, so, don't give me shit. We're getting tough.
Ooh. God. Right. Don't give me shit for getting tough. It's like I need to take care of myself. I need to protect myself. And then you as his father, just the heartbreak. I mean, I can feel that.
Oh, yeah. You know,
Oh.
what I talk about is what I call the having process.
Mm.
It's what Olga Silverstein, another great mentor of mine, called the having process. It's what Carol Gilliam calls the binary.
Mm.
That you take one whole human being and put a line down the middle, and you go, all the things to the right are masculine, all the things to the left. And you have to excise, you have to cut out the other half of who you are as a human being. And that process is intrinsically traumatic.
Yeah.
Is violent.
Yeah.
Just like my son was telling me.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about, and wholeness could be kind of a buzzword out there, but that's really what this is about, right? Like the wholeness of the human being and not having to cut out parts of ourselves.
Yeah, I talk about being strong, big-hearted guys.
Yeah.
Like the first responders in 9/11 who cried
Yeah.
openly and held each other.
Yeah. Big, powerful, strong men. And also, right, like, I mean, I see vulnerability as such a strength, especially in this world when it's not just welcomed or received, as easily from men. It's like it takes even more strength to be
You know,
open
a
and
lot of
vulnerable.
guys are under the belief that if you expose your vulnerability to women, they'll find you unattractive.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there are women who do find that
There
unattractive.
are women who do.
But I think the thing to understand is, you guys out there, the thing to understand is you have to know when to be what.
Hmm.
And here's a story. I was in Tanzania with the Maasai in a remote village, and I was with people who knew the people there very well. And so I had basically a men's group with
Mm.
the elders of the village for 3 nights.
Oh,
And we talked about everything. We talked God, and we talked about women, we talked about sex, we talked about death. Anyway,
wow.
if one of the things I said to them is, in America, there is a debate about what makes a good Morani, a good warrior man.
Hmm.
What makes a good Morani? Some people believe that a good Morani is strong and ferocious.
Mm.
Some people believe that a good Morani is soft and responsive and connected. Which is it?
Mm. What'd they say?
It went from English to Swahili to Maasai, back to Swahili, back to this little guy about 4'4". I'm 150 years old. Queen does this to me. And what translated what he said is, I have no interest in talking to you about what makes a good Mahani. Yeah, I'm only interested in what makes a great Mahani.
Huh.
He said, when the moment calls for fierceness, a good Marani is a killer.
Huh.
When the moment calls for tenderness, a good Marani lays down his sword and shield and is sweet like a
Mm.
baby.
Mm.
He said, a great Marani knows which moment is which.
Oh,
How good is that?
that just, it's like my whole body just completely relaxed hearing that.
Yeah.
And I think, when I think about being a woman and being in relationships with men and what I crave, right, and what I long for, it's not, right, it's not one or the other. It is both. And it is that ability to meet the moment together.
Yeah, that's right. My pal, and women like manly men in the bedroom often. Not all, but often.
Mm-hmm.
And my pal Esther Perel says in her typical whimsy, women, uh, we want between the sheets what we protest in the streets.
Yeah. And then even, right, even in the bedroom to have that kind of attunement of what moment is this,
Yeah.
right? Is this a moment where she's crying and her heart is opening and you can love her? Or, there's like that loving fiercely, right? There's a combination of all of it even happening at the same time. I think that can be so beautiful.
Yeah, it's all a dance.
Yeah.
And the skills of relationality are the skills of presence,
Yes.
being present to
Yeah.
what's happening in front of you and being willing to respond to it instead of getting stuck in a position.
Right. Or defensive or collapsing or,
Let me say something about men and defensiveness. There's a reason why men
geez.
are defensive, and men are defensive often. And boy, it's really multi-determined, like strands that all go together. One is that men's self-esteem. See, you're either dominant. If your model is about dominion, about domination, you're either dominator or dominated.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
You're either the lord and master or you're being lorded over and
Right.
mastered.
Slave. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the world of men, it's one up or one down,
Mm-hmm.
shame and grandiosity. And there's no platform for same as. There's no platform for humanity. There's no platform for I'm as good as you are. You're as good as I am. The only model that men have for that is a team. Like
Team. Mm-hmm.
yeah, a team, a squad of soldiers, a baseball team, football.
Uh-huh.
They understand a little bit about it. They understand some things about relationship.
Well, and then it's interesting. It's like, why is it so hard? I've always wanted to write a book called Same Team Relationship, right? It's like, why is it so hard to be on the same team in a relationship then?
Well, a woman goes to a man and says, I really didn't like blah, 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 blah. Which, by the way, if I were counseling her, I would have her not do that.
Right.
Have her say, hey, listen, let me tell you, it would really be great if you would thoughtfully do blah, 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 blah.
Right. Shifting from the complaint to the desire, or that request. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've been listening. So I would like that. But when a woman confronts a man, the first thing that happens is that his esteem drops through the floor.
Uh-huh.
Because men have to be perfect. You're either above or below. So then, in order to not feel the shame, the man wards off his own shame by warding off the complaint.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
No, you're wrong. I'm not that bad. You're wrong. I didn't do that.
And is
You're
that kind of a bump into grandiosity then?
yeah, often.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you wrong, but let me tell you about my issue with you
Mm-hmm.
or some other defense's offense. So I teach men what I call relational jujitsu.
I like that.
Yeah. Instead of hitting it, the way it comes, instead of taking it full in the chest, you duck under it.
Yeah.
It's jujitsu. You don't oppose the force coming at you. You don't hit back the way you do in the West. You duck under the force. You give a little, and the force goes totally down the hall. So relational jujitsu is to disarm an upset partner by being really nice to them, by acknowledging not offensively that you did what they think you did or contributed to their thinking that somehow.
Yeah.
And you give them, I teach men to say to women, and it's a tough thing for men to say, but I teach men to say to women, I'm sorry you feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything I could say or do right now that would help you feel better?
Mm.
You know what? That question is post-patriarchal.
The question is beautiful
Thank you.
as a woman hearing that.
Yeah. And as a man, it's like, here's a tool. You can almost, it's like one of those, multi-tool things that men walk around with.
Yeah.
Big
It has
fat.
the screwdriver and the scissors and the
Well, this is that. This is one of those tools. At any given moment, just look at your woman and say, I'm sorry you feel bad. Is there anything I can say or do that would help you feel better? Every time they're upset.
And what would you say for those men who are in relationships with women who are more cold and,
The other side,
hard?
role reversed, couple,
Mm-hmm.
guy is the more passive, victim-y one, and the woman is more aggressive and
Yeah,
often.
because I've had men say to me, I ask her, what does she need from me? And she just won't tell me, or she walls off, or
No, no.
she's hardened.
Look, there's no shortage of grandiose women either.
Yeah.
Men tend to lead with grandiosity and have covert shame. Women tend to lead from the one down shame position and have covert grandiosity.
Right.
But there are plenty of women who are on the masculine side of the equation, and they're aggressive like men, and
Yeah.
they're entitled. And if it's grandiose enough, they're downright distorted, and they're
Yeah.
like the big angry victims. One of the dangers for women is self-righteous indignation and angry victimhood.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the culture right now, there'll be a lot of support for
Yeah.
it.
So
And
as a man who has tried what you said and has said, honey, I'm sorry you feel bad. What can I do? And is met with, you can't do anything, or, there's nothing there. You just keep doing this over and over. Do you have a suggestion for that?
so I'm in my therapy office, and this guy gets dragged in by his. Interestingly enough, it's the woman who brings him into therapy. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
And she brings him in for the same complaint. This kind of woman always has the same complaint, which is he's passive aggressive, he's uncommunicative, he's withdrawn, he's a speed bump, he's boring, I feel disconnected. And I ask her to sit in the waiting room, and I ask him what's going on. And he says, yeah, you want to talk to her? I don't talk to her. There's some other things I don't do. I don't walk into fans either. You try talking to her. You know what? She escalates in 10 seconds, and it is super unpleasant, let me tell you. So what I say to him is this, and what I say to all you guys in this position is this. If you stand up to her, start by saying, this is why I haven't been talking to you. Tell her just the truth about this moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you stand up to her and start telling her the truth, that's fierce intimacy. If you stand up to her and start telling her the truth, she may blow up like an exploding cigar in your face. And your marriage could be over, like now.
Yeah.
If you do not stand up to her, then you are going to be mistreated and aggressively nailed to the floor
For the rest of your life.
for your uncommunicativeness for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. You want it? And I got to tell you, 3 out of 4 guys will pick up their socks and say, okay, let's go for it.
All right. I'm doing it. I'm in.
Yeah. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't. But you have to have courage. Right? You have to stand up for how you're going to be treated. Look, if you're a woman being mistreated by a man, or a man being mistreated by a woman, I talk about becoming a relationship champion. You get settled in your birthright that you deserve to be in a cherishing relationship. And anything uncherishing is bad for you. It's bad for the kids. It's bad for the uncherishing person. It's bad for everyone.
It's bad for everyone.
Yeah. So stand up to it or get out. How's that?
I love it. That's the no bullshit attitude, right? Stand up to it or get out. And it's not like, I feel your compassion in that too. It's not like you're, there's the fierce love. There's the fierce intimacy in that.
It's a combination of love and truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
And when I work with men, they all feel from me, I don't mean to be whatever, but it's an important part of the work. They all feel from me, and from every RLT therapist, they feel that the therapist is rooting for them.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the best part of you. I'm not rooting for the childish part of you that gets in the way.
Right. That distinction between the adaptive child and the functional adult.
That's right. There are literally different parts of the brain that get activated in relationships. Prefrontal cortex, the latest to develop as a species, and also in an individual. Your prefrontal cortex is fully developed into your 20s. That's you can think, you can decide, you can deliberate, you can choose. The limbic system is automatic. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Call me as shit, I'll punch it. Bang.
Mm.
It's an automatic response. And as you know, I teach men what I call second consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Your first consciousness, your first reflexive automatic response could be, well, there are three: fight, flight, or fix.
Yeah.
Fight, you got, and a lot of men move into flight.
Yeah.
The movement into flight is the translation of shame into grandiosity. I wanted to make sure we got that out,
Mm-hmm.
which is central to masculinity. It is central to masculinity that we men, for the most part, have about 3 seconds worth of tolerance for feeling inferior, frightened, ashamed.
Uh-huh.
We go from the one down to the one up. Then
Uh-huh.
controlling our environment, controlling the other person, and when that doesn't work, the next step is retaliation. And
Uh-huh.
this is the dynamic of male violence.
Yeah.
Whether I'm talking about screaming at your wife or kid, or whether I'm talking about grabbing an Uzi and blowing people away.
Yeah.
The transformation of shame into grandiosity and feeling helpless and inferior to feeling superior and righteously entitled to attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is also a central aspect of traditional patriarchy, and it needs to go.
It's a central aspect of what?
Of traditional patriarchy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
regeneration through violence
Yeah.
is a phrase coined by Richard Slockin, who wrote over 1,000-page trilogy on the history of America, and he
Wow.
called the entire trilogy "Regeneration Through
Wow.
Violence."
Whew. There's so much here, and I feel the the deep pain.
Yeah, I want to address something to the men and women also if they're listening. But
Yeah.
look, you did a really good job earlier of getting me to talk about my own grandiosity. I feel I take no responsibility for that whatsoever. You made me do it. Now listen, I want to talk about grandiosity, guys. If you ride in the one-up position, superior, above it, you take liberties. You're irresponsible, or you're selfish, or you're controlling, or you're harsh, or you're demanding. Any of those one-up behaviors. It is in your interest to learn to come down, to learn to be more connected, softer, more open, more relational, more collaborative, and less selfish, more curious and less high and mighty.
Yes.
And a whole lot less angry for you angry guys. Just knock it off. Being angry all the time is a shitty way to live. Yes. I tell men I talk about what I call poison privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell men you come down from grandiosity for your sake because it's a crummy way to live. And who needs it? How's that?
Good. Well, I want to honor your times, and we only have a couple more minutes. So thank you for all of this. And thank you for being both willing to admit to your grandiosity and to, tear up and feel the heartbreak of parenting a boy and what boys and men go through and the struggles that we have as humans. So I appreciate you, and I want everybody to, read and listen to all of your work. So terryreal.com, TerryReal.com. Definitely go there. Fierce Intimacy is incredible. All of your books are profound. And so I'm curious if there's any last thing you'd like to leave men with.
I'm hopeful. We're at war between an old and a new idea of what masculinity is all about. Yeah. The new idea is going to win because younger people are coming up and they're more democratic and egalitarian, and each generation is a little further from this model.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of millennial men. So eventually the old model will crumble. It's atavistic. It doesn't fit in this world anymore.
Yeah.
We live in a global, interdependent world. This hierarchical stuff doesn't even work in leadership. I mean, people are about relational leadership in business, politics, except for these strongmen.
Yeah.
Anyway, do your part. I'm not asking anybody to feminize themselves. I want you to be whole.
Yeah.
You guys, I want you to be responsible, responsive, soft, big-hearted, strong, sexy, capable men.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today and for your decades and decades of work and being in the trenches and, being one who couples go to right on the edge and right as they're about to, call it quits and get divorced, and you really standing in there with your fierce heart and helping them turn things around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have. Send your folks come to me.
Yeah. terryreal.com, and they can find you there if they want to work with you as well, not just your books and everything like that.
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
You.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope it gives you a sense of what's possible and how good your life can be. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe to Man Alive and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/manalive to get outtakes, videos, and raw footage I only share there. These are some of the most interesting parts of these expert conversations. You can also grab your copy of The Unknown Power to accelerate your career and solidify your confidence with women, because the two are related, and I know you don't have to settle for one or the other. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.